For nearly 40 years, I believed I knew the person who shared my life. After an unexpected accident, a lawyer asked me to visit his office. I assumed the meeting was only about legal documents and insurance records. I never expected that a single file on his desk would completely change everything I thought I knew. When I left that office, I realized that the person I had trusted had been keeping a major part of his life hidden for more than 20 years. He had been maintaining another household and another set of responsibilities during all that time. Every evening, he returned home as though everything was completely normal, while I had no idea what had really been happening. My name is Eleanor. I am 68 years old. For many years, I believed I understood the life I was living. When I was 26, Richard became part of my journey. From that point on, we built a future together, 1 year at a time. Life was never perfect. We experienced financial pressure, unexpected setbacks, health concerns, and many difficult seasons. Even with those challenges, I believed every obstacle had strengthened the bond we had built. For decades, I never had a reason to doubt the person I trusted the most. While I focused on protecting the life we shared, another reality was quietly taking shape beyond my view. It remained hidden for more than 20 years. I had no sign that anything was different. Everything appeared ordinary. Every day followed the same routine. Nothing seemed unusual. Only much later did I realize that the picture I believed was complete had always been missing an important piece. That discovery changed the way I understood the past. The call came just after 10 that morning. An unfamiliar number flashed across my phone, and I almost ignored it. "Mrs. Eleanor Collins?" A man asked politely. "I'm attorney Daniel Harris. Your husband has been in a serious car accident. He's alive, but there's a legal matter that requires your immediate attention before you come to the hospital." My heart pounded. I assumed it was about insurance or medical consent. Instead, when I arrived at his office, the lawyer placed a single document in front of me and said quietly, "Before you see your husband, there's something you deserve to know." I looked down and saw Richard's name on a marriage certificate dated 20 years ago. The bride wasn't me. For a few seconds, I forgot how to breathe. I stared at the certificate, convinced it had to be fake. "This isn't possible," I whispered. "We've been married for 39 years. The lawyer sighed. Before opening another folder, inside were photographs, tax records, a house deed, and 2 birth certificates. Every document carried Richard's name. There was no mistake. For 20 years, my husband hadn't just been lying to me, he had been living an entirely different life. I felt as though every anniversary we'd celebrated, every birthday cake we'd cut, and every promise he'd made had suddenly turned into a lie. But one question kept echoing in my mind. How had he hidden this for so long? An hour later, I walked into Richard's hospital room. His face lit up when he saw me, but the smile disappeared the moment he noticed the papers in my hand. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I simply held up the marriage certificate and asked, "Who is she?" The room fell silent. Richard closed his eyes and turned his face away. That was all the answer I needed. After nearly 40 years together, I knew every expression on that man's face. His silence wasn't confusion, it was guilt. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "Her name is Margaret, and I never wanted you to find out this way." I looked him straight in the eyes and replied, "Richard, after 20 years of lies, was there ever going to be a right way?" For the first time since we'd met, Richard didn't try to defend himself. Tears rolled down his face as he whispered, "I made the biggest mistake of my life." Then, slowly, the truth began to come out. 20 years earlier, during one of his long business assignments in another state, he had met Margaret. What started as a lie he thought he could control turned into a second marriage, then 2 children, and before he realized it, he was trapped between 2 families. Instead of telling the truth, he chose the easier path every single day. Another excuse, another business trip, another anniversary celebrated in 2 different homes. I kept telling myself I'd end it tomorrow, he said. Then tomorrow became 20 years. I looked at him without a single tear left to cry. "No, Richard," I said quietly. "You didn't make one mistake 20 years ago. You made a choice every single day for 20 years. 2 days later, the lawyer called again. Richard had one request before the court began sorting out his legal affairs. He wanted both families to meet. Every instinct told me to refuse, but I needed to see the people whose existence had stolen 20 years of my marriage. When I walked into the conference room, a woman about my age stood up nervously. Beside her were a young man and a young woman, both in their early 20s. Before I could say a word, the woman looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "You're Eleanor, aren't you?" I nodded. She covered her mouth and started crying. Richard told me his first marriage had ended years before we met. "I swear, I never knew you still existed." In that moment, my anger shifted. I wasn't looking at the woman who had destroyed my family. I was looking at another woman whose life had been built on the very same lie. Richard hadn't betrayed just one wife. He had betrayed 2 families. Later that evening, I returned to Richard's hospital room one last time. He looked at me with the hope of a man who knew he didn't deserve a second chance but prayed for one anyway. "Eleanor," he whispered, "I'm sorry. If I could go back and change everything, I would. Please, don't let this be how our story ends." I stood beside his bed for a long moment before answering. "Richard, I spent 39 years loving you with my whole heart. You spent 20 of those years giving half of yours to someone else. I can feel sorry for the man lying in this bed, but I can never trust a man who chose to lie to me every single day. I hope one day you find peace, but it won't be with me." Without raising my voice or shedding another tear, I placed my wedding ring on the bedside table, turned around, and walked out of the room for the very last time. It's been 3 years since I walked out of that hospital room. People still ask me if I regret leaving after nearly 40 years of marriage. My answer is always the same: I don't regret leaving. I regret staying loyal to a man who stopped being loyal to me 20 years before I knew it. Life didn't become perfect overnight. There were lonely mornings and difficult nights, but with every passing day, I found a little more peace. I learned that forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing. I chose to let go of my anger, but I also chose never to return to the person who broke my trust. If there's one lesson my story can leave behind, it's this: love can survive hardship, poverty, and even time, but it cannot survive 20 years of deliberate lies. And no matter how old you are, it's never too late to choose your own dignity over someone else's deception. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever had to choose between love and self-respect, I hope you always choose yourself.